United States of America is, as we know, the world's largest economy. It's also the home of 40% of the globe's investable assets. Now that is enormous. The S&P 500 has a capitalization weighted index of the largest companies domiciled in that country. Although, and this is important, many of them earn significant portions of their profits from outside the United States. The largest stocks in the index are ExxonMobil, Apple and JP Morgan. And let's look at this in light of the fact that the Fed has confused the hell out of all of us in terms of whether it is to taper or not to taper. In light of that, what should we be doing with investing in the Dow Jones?
Just a strong buy as usual.
S&P.
The Fed, of course, did what was expected, which was nothing, because that economy isn't yet strong enough as far as those measures look like in terms of unemployment and so on. But I am of the view...
I beg to differ. It wasn't that they did what was not expected. I mean, they really, you know, it was bad investor relations.
No, come on, Bronwyn, you must listen to other people.
It was terrible investor
Definitely
relations.
They kind of said that they would taper if they thought it was necessary, and then they decided afterwards it wasn't. That's what you want from technocrats.
They got scared off by the fact that the market sold off. Anyway.
No, well, as far as the stock market is concerned, those companies we know are all doing fabulously, because in recent years, profit margins have risen because people get paid less and less every year and the companies make more and more money, especially these big global brands that are now going global. So I'm thinking of Apple, Johnson & Johnson, Nike, the big US banks, all doing fabulously, and I'm not surprised the share prices are higher.
Tsepo, how are you feeling about the US? And this is an entry point for a portfolio.
Look, whilst I think there's some high quality businesses within the market, I think we've approached a level where a lot of the potential good news has already been priced in, and I think investors in the US are ignoring a lot of headwinds that we have for corporate USA. Paul touched on one or two of them. The fact that corporate earnings are as high as they are doesn't bode well for the US consumer, because those, whilst the earnings have increased, that hasn't filtered through in terms of wages. And the drivers of those earnings is consumer over the long term. So I think that's a potential headwind. The other one you touched on, they earn a lot of their earnings outside of the US. With the dollar as strong as it is, that's likely to be another headwind. So I'm a little bit cautious about investing in the US right now.
Yeah, you're mentioning a lot of headwinds there. Do you share his lack of enthusiasm, Mr. Tehran?
No, I'm hugely enthusiastic, always. I mean, I thought Lindsay Williams' special on the US economy was absolutely terrible, shamefully bad, because he got everything almost 180 degrees wrong. He says we're going to go through a very bad patch and things are so bad and we've been stimulating the dead patient. All that kind of stuff is just so woefully wrong, it's embarrassing. What you've got to understand is that the economy is in a recovery phase. I think US GDP, their number came out the last couple of hours, 2.5% up. It's going to be 3 next year and 4 the year after that. The workers will eventually get paid more because the companies will realize there's so much consumer demand that they have to employ more people.
But
and
the overriding premise is that money grows on trees. That's what we need to accept if we believe in the US story. I like it. I'm happy to grow a money tree. I don't know about you. I really want one in my garden.
No, I'm being intentionally provocative because so much of the discourse on this channel and on every other major international business channel is overwhelmingly negative. I don't know, I think people think they sound clever if they're negative because, you know, you're worried about things. But in reality, we know that we went through a bad patch in 08, 09, and since then it's been going fabulously. So you mustn't ever be negative. You must always be incredibly and unrealistically positive.
You must always look on the bright side of life.
Exactly.
Tsepo, come on, you're the value manager. You look for the stocks in the doldrums.
Look, in my mind, the US economy is not about to fall over or topple over. I'm just concerned in terms of a lot of the good news already being priced in terms of valuations in the US. So I'm not completely bearish about the outlook going forward for the US, but I think, the market is too bullish in my mind.
So talk to me about the US ETF now. Do we go to hot or not hot?
Look, the individual stocks are what will drive the overall index. So the sectors that we must be paying particular attention to are technology, and you know what's in there. It's the Apples, the Ciscos, Visas, the Googles, that kind of stuff. Then there is consumer, massive exposure to food companies, retailers, healthcare, vitally important because it's very, very big in the US. So that's Johnson & Johnson, all the drug companies, Pfizer, Merck, that sort of thing.
Also the resource companies like ExxonMobil.
Yeah, although oil is very significant. In fact, mining companies are not all that significant in that economy. So then there are sort of companies like Boeing and some industrial producers, John Deere and Caterpillar and all of those sort of things. I mean, you can see them. They're all the ones. Financial services has been in recovery. We know that JP Morgan, Goldman Sachs, those kinds of companies have been doing better, notwithstanding the fact taking terrible, enormous fines. But you put all of that stuff together, and quite frankly, I think you'll see sequential earnings improvements. I think the Dow and the S&P are probably a buy. And I just think that's not going to be a sort of recovery story, really. It's in the price, as Seppo said. It's more just like the continuation of relatively good news.
You've managed to confuse me. Did you say hot or not? Or
Definitely hot.
Definitely
hot.